Awesome, thank you. So real quick, this is marketing, advertising, and sales, how they're different, how they're connected. The idea being we're gonna talk about what these terms are and how they should work in your organization. There's a PS workshop to this that I just developed and then guinea pigged down in Colfax, which is marketing and sales metrics, what to track and why. And Kelly and I are actually working on coming up with a time for that. It may not be a lunch and learn, might be like an evening one, like 4 to 5 or 5 to 6, but that one has gotten such good response that we're looking to put that one together. So stay tuned for that. So yes, marketing, advertising, and sales. I'm Josh King. I used to have this slide built into all my decks where I would like walk through my history. Part of that was I started doing presentations when I was much younger than I am now, and people would look at me like they shouldn't believe what I'm saying because I'm so young, very classic millennial. But as I've gotten older and just a little bit more experience, I've realized that one, you probably don't care all that much about my background and history. You're probably here, you believe me, you're gonna believe me, you might believe me. But if you do wanna know more about me, and what I do and what my business is all about, you are more than welcome to connect with me after the workshop. You can take me out for a cup of coffee, a glass of beer, a glass of beer, and you can ask all about me. So we're gonna skip ahead and get going. So I have some tips for every workshop. The tips for this one are very specific. The first one is ask questions. I have one speed. I used to say I have one volume, but I'm mic'd today, so you get me even louder than I normally am. So, but if I go too fast or I don't cover something in enough detail, please feel free to ask questions. The next thing is start now. I see an awful lot of people attend workshops and go to things like this with a well-intentioned idea of, I'm gonna start all this stuff and I'm gonna do all, and then you get into your business later this afternoon and you forget all about it, right? You don't do it, you don't execute. So the next thing is start now. If any of this makes sense to you and you feel like you could apply it in your business, then you should start. The next thing is thinking goals. The only way to succeed in advertising or marketing or sales is to know where you're trying to go. Too many organizations that I've worked with don't have an idea of where they want to go. They don't know what they're trying to accomplish. And so then you start asking them questions like, they say things like, oh, I don't know, social media didn't work for my business. Well, how do you know? Well, I don't know, I just feel like it didn't work. Well, what were the metrics you were using? What was your success? What was your goal? And they can't tell you. So before you judge something and whether or not it doesn't work, right, you need to start thinking about what are your goals and how do you measure it. And the last one is seriously, you gotta ask questions. So since I just spent all this time talking about goals, let's talk about goals a little bit more. Number one, what are your primary marketing, advertising, and sales goals? Obviously, we haven't covered the terms yet for marketing, advertising, and sales, but as you're thinking, you should be thinking what your primary goals are. Here's the key though, what are your backup goals? And I'll give you the example. My goal for a workshop like this is butts in seat. That's my first one, right? I want people here to see the workshop and to hear me. That's my primary goal. But my secondary goal is, did people hear about the workshop, right? Did people know I was doing this? So a lot of times after I do something like this or I have an event I go to or host something, people will come up to me afterwards and say, hey, how'd your thing go, right? How was it? How many people showed up? Did you have a good time? Tell me more. Some people, like Cindy, have said, I've heard you do presentations. People have told me, right? So my primary goal is, how many people showed up today? And then my secondary goal is, did people hear about it? And by the way, I take a head count when I'm here, and in my head, I remember that. I go, okay, there's about 25. I'll count at some point, and I will write that down and track that as I tease my next workshop, which is tracking marketing and sales metrics. I'm tracking my primary goal, how many people are here, and then I can, if I want, start tracking that secondary goal. How many people ask me about this workshop, right? The next thing is what metrics matter to you? Don't steal other people's metrics. Figure out what works for you. Seth Godin, anybody familiar with Seth Godin? Writes a marketing blog. He wrote a really great blog on this subject, and I'll show it to you really quick so you can write down the link if you want it. He wrote a blog talking all about don't steal metrics, right? And I'll read you a little bit of this. Thoughtful friend has a new project and decided to integrate a podcast into it. Talking to a producer, he said his goal was to make it a top 10 podcast on iTunes. Why is that the goal? That's a common goal, it's a popular goal, it's someone else's goal. What are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish in your business? What does success look like? And are those your goals or are those someone else's goals, right? So you have to know that. I do not want to update Keynote. Thank you very much. Okay. So what are your primary goals? What are your backup goals? What metrics matter to you? And then what aren't we measuring? Things that we aren't measuring when we measure goals and when we look at it, it's difficult to measure things like social impact. What kind of impact did you have in your community? What kind of impact are you having on your community? How happy are your employees? You can do surveys if you want, but there are some things that you just don't get to measure when it comes to marketing, sales, and advertising. So while I think measuring goals is great, I want to always be aware of the things that we just can't measure or maybe we aren't measuring. I also have some assumptions and rules for today. One, I'm going to assume that you have a solid product or service. This workshop is not designed to fix a bad product or a bad service or a bad retail location or any of that. You're here because you haven't figured out how to get that product, service, or whatever in front of people, right? You're not here because you want somebody to fix your product. I can't do that. I wish I could. I can't. I'm going to assume that if you have a retail space, it's awesome and people want to be there. You cannot, there's no amount of marketing, advertising, or sales that will fix a place nobody wants to be, right? Your place has to be welcoming. The next thing I'm going to assume is that yeah buts don't apply. And if you find yourself thinking today at any point in this workshop, yeah, but that won't work for my business, you're in the wrong workshop. And you have the wrong mindset to be an entrepreneur or a small business owner. Yeah buts don't apply in this world, right? You have to be thinking, awesome, that's great feedback. I'm not doing it, that sucks. It may even be a little painful, but and I'm not saying I'm the be-all, end-all when it comes to this stuff. I am by no means the world's foremost expert on any of this. I just work with businesses all the time, and I run into successful ones and ones who aren't successful. And the ones who aren't successful have a yeah, but attitude. Yeah, but that just won't work, right? So you got to get rid of that. The next one I'm going to assume is that you are willing to do sales or you're willing to fix your current sales, right? How many of you are the practitioner? You own the business, you also do the product that I'm in that boat, so I see a couple. So you're also, that means not only are you doing the service or making the product, it also means you're running the marketing, running the advertising, and running the sales, right? And if you said to me in a meeting, yeah, I hate sales, then you're in the wrong business, right? You have to figure out how to get past that. Or just say, I'm at least willing to do it. And the next thing is you are doing customer service, and if you are, but it's broken, you're willing to fix it, right? These are some assumptions that I have for today. All right, so let's get agreement on terms, because that's what we're all here for. This is a great quote. This quote says, advertising builds awareness, marketing gets clients to know you, and sales gets clients to use you. Put another way, it means marketing is telling a story to the appropriate consumer. We're not trying to talk to people who won't ever buy your product or service. We want to talk to people who your product or service makes sense for, right? Advertising is paying to get that story in front of the right consumer. So marketing is all the things we do to tell a story. Your website, social media, business cards, and I'll give more examples. Advertising is when we pay for that to be in front of people. It's a billboard. It's Google AdWords. It's a boosted post on Facebook. So when you hear the word advertising, and I ask a lot, I do a survey when I meet with somebody new for the very first time, a prospect in my business, I send them a questionnaire to fill out. And I ask them, what does marketing mean to you? What does advertising mean to you? And I usually get some version of the same definition for both. And that's why I started doing this workshop. A lot of confusion. The word ad comes from advertising, right? I ran an ad, I paid for an ad. It's paid for selling messages, right? That's what it is. And then selling is that final stage, it's the transaction. Sales could look different for you. For me, it's one-on-one, it's face-to-face. It could be your website, right? It could be your referral network. Maybe you're B2B, or maybe you sell direct to wholesalers. But selling is the transaction. Are we all cool? We're all nodding in agreement? Love it. Okay, so let's talk about marketing. This is telling a story. Good marketing starts in a place about discovering the narrative. So I like this quote, marketing is all about discovering your audience, developing the narrative that connects with your audience. So the first part is understanding what the heck you're doing. What's your mission? What do you believe in? There's a wonderful TED Talk. It's in this deck, which, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't start with this. A little bit of housekeeping. If you want a copy of this deck, this will go around. Just put your name and email on it, and I'll be sure to email you a copy of the deck. Associated with this slide is a wonderful TED Talk from Simon Sinek talking about why businesses do what they do. It's called How Great Leaders Inspire Action. And he breaks down a good mission statement into 3 parts. Why, how, what. Why do you do what you do? How do you do it? And what do you do? So I'll give you an example. I'll just use my business. Tinderbox Marketing exists to serve God by serving others. It doesn't have anything to do with what I do. Your why will have very little to do with what you do. I just worked with a client. Their mission is they want to help people live their best life. Has 0 to do with their product. Live your best life, right? So then the how do we do that? We serve others by working with businesses and entrepreneurs by incorporating biblical principles into our business model. The goal is to leave each business owner or entrepreneur in better shape than we found them. My goal for this workshop is to hopefully leave you in better shape than I found you when you came in, right? I want to leave you better off. What do? Tinderbox works with small to medium businesses and entrepreneurs on their marketing and sales initiatives so that their businesses may succeed and thrive. Guess what this also is? It's your elevator pitch. Somebody says, what do you do? Well, Tinderbox Marketing exists to serve God by serving others. Oh my gosh, that sounds so fascinating. Tell me more. A good elevator pitch isn't just telling the what. A good elevator pitch is telling why you do what you do. Same with good marketing. Your marketing connects with consumers based on why you do what you do. You're trying to connect with people who share your beliefs and share your values. Okay, so that takes us to who is your customer? You have to know who your customer is. What is their age? What's their gender? What's their marital status? What's their location? What's their income? Children, hobbies and interests. These are really important pieces, right? And I'll tell you there's one step here that isn't covered on this slide, and then you have to go one step further. Willing to buy from you or willing to pay for your product or service. So I know what the businesses I work with are small to medium businesses. They typically don't have in-house marketing, nor do they want in-house marketing. The next piece is willing to pay for marketing help, right? I can meet with 1 million business owners that have no interest in paying for marketing. That's the yeah buts. I'm not interested in talking to the yeah buts. So a perfect example, when I did this workshop, I actually pioneered this workshop also down in the Palouse in Colfax. And I was talking about this slide, and this lady, she says, you're wrong. And I said, why am I wrong? She said, well, I can do business with anybody who owns a computer. I said, well, what's your business? She said, we're Colfax Computer. We sell and service computers. We do a lot of virus cleanup, and we do a lot of repair and service on computers. And we also sell them. I said, you're wrong. You can't do business with everybody who has a computer. She says, why? I said, well, I own a computer. Guess how many times in 6 years of owning the one computer I have, how many times I've taken it into the store? Once. And it was to buy a battery because I already knew that was the problem. I will never take my computer into a store. I will Google it and figure it out on my own. So her customer is not anybody with a computer. It's anyone with a computer willing to pay somebody else to fix it. And it's different, right? Raise your hand if you won't ever take your computer into a store. You'll just figure it out. There's at least a couple of us. So right there, if she said everybody in this room who owns a computer, you're my customer, she's automatically spending time, effort, and energy talking to people who won't ever do business with her. And that's the point. We do not want to waste time, right? We want to spend our time reaching people that it makes sense. The other thing that happens when you start figuring out their hobbies and interests, if there's a lot of commonality there, it gives you a message. So I was working with a school out in the valley, kind of an alternative school. And they had 2 goals. One was to recruit students to their school. The other goal was to recruit educators to come teach there. And so we wanted to focus on that educator piece. And I was asking questions. Tell me about the people who teach here. A couple of things came up. One, teaching was their second career. It was not their first career. They got into teaching because they wanted to make a difference in the world. Boom, marketing messaging, right? The second thing that came up was all the people teaching in that building loved pets. A variety of pets, but they were all pet owners. So now we can start talking to people and say, if you're looking to make a difference in the world with your next career, we have a place for you to come work, which is a way different marketing message at a job fair than, hey, we're hiring, right? When they hire bus drivers, they just say we're hiring at $15 an hour. They're not trying to sell you on mission. But when you go work at a really difficult school that's kind of an alternative school, serving the underprivileged, you have to have a message. You have to recruit the right people. The next thing is we can start doing things like showing Bring Your Pet to Work Day, right? We can start creating messaging around how awesome it is to be at a place with so many people who share your values, right? Okay, so This quote, which is again from Simon Sinek, I love his TED Talk, he says, the goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Not everybody who needs what you have is going to buy it, but the people who believe and share the same mission. Here's what's really funny about my mission. I put God right in the middle of it. You would think that weirds people out. It doesn't. I sat across the table from an atheist who said, I don't agree with anything that you do, but I love that you own your mission, and I want to work with you. So you might think that putting your beliefs in there, now if you're a racist, that's different. So don't put that, finally a laugh. Boy, it took a while to break that seal. So if you want to put a mission, a value in there that people can identify with, right? Don't put the wrong messaging. All right, so realtors, by the way, is anybody here a realtor? I'm going to pick on you. Oh, good, no realtors. They're the worst. They say things like, I can list any home and I can help any buyer. When you start asking them, though, they go, I kind of hate millennials, right? Probably shouldn't be working with them, right? So it's not everybody. We don't want to do business with everybody. That is wasting time. All right, I think I spent enough time there. When we think about marketing, to me, marketing is so simple. It's about moving people from here to here. It's leave their house, come to your location. Leave Facebook, go to your website. Whatever the action is, we want them to leave a place and go to our hub. And our hub is where the transaction takes place. What we're trying to do is send them where they need to go to buy. So all the things that you have, the spokes, need to be designed and thoughtful things to send people where they need to go. You're sitting in one of my spokes right now. This is one of the best things I do to drive business for me. Is just go out and talk to people. I don't get paid to be here. I don't want to be paid to be here. I just come do this because I'm passionate. And inevitably, one, maybe two of you will go, love that dude, I'm going to call him, right? So where do people need to go to buy becomes I have to drive that traffic. Well, ultimately for me, I need you to connect with me. I need you to send me an email or connect with me through my website so we can set a meeting. I'm very intentional in that. Where do people need to go to do business with you? What does that look like? Is it your website? It could be your website. If you're an online retailer, it could be your website. Could also be Amazon and Etsy. You could have 3 places that you're comfortable with people going. And then you start looking at, well, is Facebook the right one to reach my audience? Is Instagram? Is traditional media, paid advertising? Is it an electronic newsletter? Who's sending an electronic newsletter right now, an e-newsletter, MailChimp or anything? 1? That's 2, 3? I will tell you this right now, the clients that I have that send a regular newsletter experience the best results in their business. Do not let anyone tell you email marketing is dead. It is very much not, okay? Wall Street Journal just published an article that said the hot, new, trendy marketing channel is e-newsletters, right? They are still effective. I had a client come to me and he said, I don't think my newsletter is working. Guess what my first question was? Why do you think that? Well, I don't think anybody reads it. So I log into his account. He was getting a 50% open rate. Out of 2,500 people, 1,200 of them were reading his newsletter. You can't buy that. You literally cannot buy that. He just didn't understand the value. So if you're thinking, email marketing doesn't work for me, and then you log in and you see you're getting a 30% open rate, you're right in line with industry standards. 20 to 30% is about average. And guess what? It's not the same 20 to 30% that open it every time. It's a different group, right? Sorry, I did not come in here. Like MailChimp did not sponsor this workshop. Like, you better talk about newsletters or we're out. Networking, strategic relationships. Startup, strategic relationship for me, right? Are you blogging? We talk about influencers, right? These are people who have influence. It could be, I wouldn't say, like, I'm not saying go out and hire an Instagram influencer, but are there people who deal with customers that you want to deal with who can influence that group, right? So startup could be considered an influencer or a strategic relationship or both. They influence people who come here for help. And so I end up becoming one of their partners. And if somebody comes in looking for marketing help, they say, you should connect with Josh, right? All right, I got to move along or we're going to run out of time. Here are some things that are marketing, in case you were wondering. Here are some things that are marketing. I apologize if this is really small for you in the back. Number 1, website. Number 2, your logo. That is very much marketing and advertising. And guess what? No one's going to own your brand but you. No one will own it but you. And if you don't know what your colors are in your logo, or your fonts are, or you don't have the right versions of your logo, you're doing it wrong. You need to own those because no one else will do it for you. And if your Facebook page in that little circle profile picture doesn't have your logo but has a picture of your cat, you're also doing it wrong. Guess what is in the circle for Nike? Anybody? The swoosh. Guess what's in the circle for McDonald's? The golden arches, right? That's not on accident. So no one's going to own that but you. Brand elements. Boy, I really need to rework this slide when I'm in a bigger room. Okay. Brand elements. Those are the things that go along with your logo. Let's play a game. When you think of McDonald's and you think of the golden arches, what's another color that you think of? Red. That's not on accident, right? That's their brand. What color boxes do Nike shoes come in? There's 3. Orange is very correct. What's another one? Anybody know? Black and then teal. I haven't seen red yet. Teal is their skateboarding brand. I think they've done black with with basketball and then orange and everything else. I'll have to go look for red, if that's true. I'm not saying like you're a liar. That's not what I meant there. Like, I don't believe you. All right, brand elements. Mission statement, we talked about that. Your blog can be part of it. It doesn't cost you anything but a little bit of time to write a blog. Position you as an expert. Your newsletter, social media, if you're not paying for it, it's free, it's marketing, it's part of that storytelling. Press releases. Anybody in this room routinely or regularly sending press releases to the local media? Well done, Cindy. Right? Does it cost you anything to do that? Did it cost you anything? Did it cost you anything to get the email address for the spokesman or KXLY? Nope. They all put emails to their newsroom right on their websites for you to email. Yes, I love it. Question. Yes. Perfect. Yes, and I'll PS that with, so I was working with a client that runs a music therapy center. Deals mostly with kids on the autism spectrum, but she can do therapy for anybody. She does play and music therapy. She was holding an open house. This is not the world's sexiest news story. She sent out a press release, Creme 2 sent a camera crew at no cost and put it on the 5 o'clock news. Her open house for her music therapy location, right? So if you think, I don't know that the news would care, if it's a slow day, they'll care. Also, the Journal of Business will publish just about anything you send them. They publish the printed version, and they send a daily email. And oftentimes, that daily email is full of content from outside this market, which tells me they're hungry for stories, right? Press releases don't cost you anything. Events, it might cost you some food, beverages, whatever, but to host an event, it wouldn't cost you a whole lot. Building signage. Now, this is gonna be painful. A good building sign could run you up to 10 grand or more. So I'm not running out there and saying, gotta spend a lot of money. Look at Boulevard Mercantile. They did not spend a lot of money on their sign. It's high contrast, white on black. It's hand painted, but you see it, and it's in their brand, and it's in their font. So you can be creative, but just know your building signage is sometimes somebody's first impression of you. And if you're handwriting your hours and pasting them on the door with tape, right? We will judge you. You're like, that guy is so awful. But that's how people think, right? All right, and then your business cards. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I couldn't be more excited about this next example. We all know Lighthouse dressings, right, in the bottle, made in Sandpoint. This is the president's business card. His card is on the bottom. This is perforated, and then he's giving you a free bottle of product. I've never seen a better business card. Here's my business card. It's worth up to $7. Who thinks they have a really good high-end business card that's willing to show me? Really good high-end, like you paid a little bit for it, right? Okay, never get dirty. Just estimate, how much did you just hand me? 50 cents? 75 cents? Okay, so under $1, right? So I always joke with people that, you have to be careful how much you spend on a business card because I could be handing you $1. This dude's having $7 out every time he gives his business card, right? Not only that, if you redeem this as a grocery store, they'll pay you an extra 8 cents. So he's actually handing out $7.08. That's insane. But it worked. It ended up in my presentation. right? I just saw this today. I was so excited. I'm keeping this, by the way. You're not getting that back. All right. So think about your business card as a great. I met with somebody, Bobby from Indaba, right? He was in one of my workshops. He raises his hand. He goes, well, I leave mine, the back of mine blank. Because I was like, you're paying for both sides. You might as well have content on both. He goes, well, people like to write notes on the back. Then why don't you put on your card, hey, meeting you was great, take some notes. Make it personal. Do something, right? Don't leave that spot blank. You're paying for it, even if you don't think you are. All right. Oh, that was just marketing. You're like, we have two more sections to go? I don't know. All right, advertising. This one's a little quicker. So this is when we want to pay for our message to get in front of the right audience, right? So I've been really serious about this. If this quote offends you, we live in a Me Too era, and I'm super sensitive to that because I know I don't get to make the rules. Like, I'm a white male. I don't get to make the rules. But if this offends you, please come up to me afterwards. Let me know. Doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but no one else does, right? So here's another way of saying that. Advertising is totally unnecessary unless you hope to make money. Now, I'm not saying run out and spend money on advertising. I'm not saying that. But you should have a plan, right? You should have a plan to eventually spend a little bit of money. And coming back to the goals, have 2 goals. So I do an event called Business Brew. It's the first Thursday of the month. It's open to anybody, and it's completely free. And the idea is super simple. We bring in an industry expert, and we have coffee with them, and we ask them questions, right? First Thursday of the month. If you want more details, you can email me. Anyway, I thought, well, let's spend a little bit of money and see if we can't reach some new people. So I put $100 behind it last May. With $100, I saw like triple the number of people on Facebook say they were interested in going. It was something like 80 people said they were interested in going. Something like 25 said that they were planning on showing up. Average attendance for us is about 12, although this year we've been hitting 20 plus routinely, right? So back then, though, 12, 15 was about average. So I'm thinking, I spent $100. I don't even know. I was freaking out. I had to buy more donuts. I had to get more coffee ready. 8 people showed up, right? So if I only had the one goal, what am I thinking? That sucked. That was a waste of $100. But for weeks, people kept coming up and asking me about that specific event. So I know I reached more people. So to me, it wasn't a total loss. I haven't spent money on it since, but I'm going in now with realistic expectations. Like if I spend money again, I know what I'm going to be looking for. So if you're going to spend money on advertising, I think you should make a plan. So this comes from a lynda.com workshop, and if you're familiar with lynda.com, you know that you have to pay a monthly fee to get access to their webinars, unless you have a city or county library card, and then it's free for you. So in the deck is a link to where this came from, so I sourced it, but the idea is you write your goal down for your paid advertising campaign, your audience, your channel. Was it paid, earned, or owned? And the quick definition of it, did you pay for it? Well, this is advertising. Earned is if somebody shared something on Facebook or put your press release out. And then owned is if somebody that you already have in your Facebook likes sees it, right? So I own my Facebook likes. I own my newsletter list. The thing about this is that's missing from here is tracking it. So let's play a game and pretend that your goal was to announce your grand opening. So your audience is, whoever your audience is, you can say adults 18 to 54 or whatever. Your channel, one of them might be your billboard, right? So I'm going to run a billboard. Well, guess what? Even those 2 billboards out there across the street, Lamar can give you the stats on how many people see that. They'll give you what they estimate to be the number of people. If you're running a billboard on Division, it used to be something like 60,000 cars a day would see your billboard, or something crazy. It was like, it's obnoxious. So if I'm running a billboard, I'm tracking how many people potentially see my billboard, right? So that's another workshop, but I just want to make sure you know that's not in here. The tracking isn't in here. All right, so let's fill this out and give you an example. So I need to sell 100 fitness widgets. I'm a fitness guru. I have widgets to sell. My target audience is adult women age 45 to 64. They're typically married. They typically have teen to adult children. And guess what? They're interested in fitness. If I wanted to go one more, they typically spend money on their fitness escapades, right? The channels I will use are Facebook, print media, and an electronic newsletter. My electronic newsletter, I can't pay for that, right? So that's not a paid one. But with my print media, I'm going to go direct mail. So you can go to the post office, by the way, because USPS is trying to get with the 2019. you can take this demographic and then you can also take a geographic zone to them, and they can tell you how many people live in that area, and then for like 17 cents a piece, you can mail them all a piece. So direct mail, not really dead either, by the way. So you could say direct mail, and then on Facebook, you're going to boost your posts for $100 a month. So at least map out your dollars, create a plan. This is really basic. You could go really in depth with this if you wanted. And then you map out the rest of your strategy, right? So we go from blank, what's my goal, what's my audience, how much am I going to spend, and we fill it out. So advertising is any time we decide to pay to reach people, right? Here are some things that are advertising. Newspaper ads, right? Those are still a thing. Facebook boosted posts. I think, honestly, if you asked me as a marketer, if you really were like, I need you to answer this, life or death, I would say your best dollar for dollar spending on advertising is Facebook boosted posts. And I'll tell you why. It's trackable. When I spend money with Facebook, I know the results. Plus, I can target graphically, so I can target areas. You can even, if you know all the zip codes that you do business with, you can upload those zip codes to Facebook and create a custom audience based on those zip codes, right? So Facebook boosted posts, and then you can also target demographically. So if you know some of the things about your audience, like I told you you should know, you can then start targeting people based on those things. Right? So, okay, this is where we have to go, okay, I'm a marketer and I love this and it's great. So you put your marketing hat on and then you take it off and you go, as a consumer, I hate it and I hate Facebook and it's dirty and privacy and blah, and that's fine and I get it, like Big Brother and all that. So that's your personal hat, but your marketing hat is, yeah, we love that because Big Brother and data, right? So you have to know you're wearing two different hats. Google AdWords, you can spend money on Google AdWords. I think that's an incredibly competitive landscape. You can get certified in AdWords, by the way, no cost. They run a free certification tool through Google. You can get AdWords. I just don't know that like in a local market, it's way too competitive, right? Radio ads, those are still a thing. Television ads, you can do that. I sold TV ads for a long time, so you can do that. Sponsorships, if you're spending any money to sponsor like a high school sports team, ask your orthodontist, right? You go into my kid's high school gym, and there's like 3 orthodontists all advertising and sponsoring the gym, the basketball court. In fact, I don't know how you worked this out, but I was just at the Meade High School parent football meeting, and the coach literally mentioned Johnson Orthodontics in the middle of his parent talk about football. So I don't know what kind of backdoor deal he's getting with the orthodontist, but sponsorships, and you should be tracking it. So when I worked at Comcast, I sold cable advertising in the local market at Comcast Spotlight. And at the time, Comcast sponsored one of those backlit signs in the McCarthy Athletic Center at GU. They had one on either end of the court, $75,000 a year for that. Now, if I'm spending that kind of money on advertising, I want the data from the McCarthy Athletic Center about all the people in attendance at every single game. And then I want to also know how many games were put on national TV and what was the audience for that. Because now I can start doing some rough math and figure out how much per eyeball did I spend, right? And did I get any return on that? So sponsorships, you should be tracking. Billboards, we talked about that. Magazines, those are important. You can still do that, still local magazines, right? Amazon ads, if you're running Amazon and you have stuff on Amazon, you can do Amazon ads, right? Those are all things that are advertising. Okay, any questions before I move on? Advertising's like the little sister to, the big sister marketing. So just know that. All right, sales. This is the hard part. This is where people squirm and go, I hate sales. All right, this is the transaction, right? This is the piece where we have to figure out, did our marketing and our advertising work? Did we get people to us? And then did we convert them? How you sell matters. What your process is matters. But how your customers feel when they engage with you matters more. We've all bought from that car lot or been to that car lot that felt gross, right? My wife and I have just been furniture shopping all over town. And I'll tell you, there's some gross furniture places where you want, and it's like, leave me alone. I just want to look at your sectionals. Get out of my face, right? We've all been there. So when I left that place and I felt that way, did I buy from them? No. And we had one of those sort of moments with Dania. First off, we didn't think we could afford Dania. Like, I always thought of that as like wicked high end, right? So we walked in, and they were actually running some really good deals. And there was a saleswoman there, and she kind of said hi, never followed us around again. I'm guarantee I was in like, I don't think I was in sweatpants, like close, right? I don't own joggers, but you can, like the equivalent of joggers. Whatever I would feel comfortable going to Walmart in is what I was wearing, right? So there's your baseline. And I don't know, my wife was fine. We had our baby with us. I had walked down from the office. It was a Monday. I don't dress up for Mondays because it's boring, my boring day. So way more information than you needed. Anyway, so we went to Dania. Like, I don't know, I didn't need to know that about that guy. So we're at Dania, and the gal says, you know, hi, and then never checks in with us. We decided that day what couch we were going to buy. But we needed the measurements, and we had to go home and map it out and make sure it would work. When we came back, less than a week later, another person came up to us, a salesperson, checked in with us, asked us questions, did whatever. Who do you think got the sale, right? We didn't even get the gal's name. She did. Most of the time, what they'll do is they'll say, hey, I'm so-and-so, here's my card. Even if you buy from our other location, tell them I worked with you, because they get the commission, right? You buy from the Walkers up north, even if you worked from the Walkers down here on Division, that person can get credit for that sale, right? So I had like 15 cards from people. This gal didn't even bother to give me her card. So when we come back and the guy says, hey, I'm happy to help you, has anybody worked with you? Guess what we said? Nope. Right? Bought a $2,500 couch. Guess who missed out on that? And Dania is not affordable, but makes my wife happy and I'm happy. So there you go. That's how that works out. So you have to think, and this guy Devin, and the reason why we spend so much is he walked through the options. He was experienced. He wasn't pushy. He helped us. He was calling us after we left in a good way, like, hey, I wanted to let you know there's a deal and I want to get you in. So great. We felt great. I will probably shop there for the rest of my life. All right, so you have two versions of sales. You have your online and your in-person. And I can tell you right now that even though I do in-person sales, I still consider my website to be part of the transaction, right? So, but we need to talk about what are your key parts of your in-person sales plan. So this works even if you're, I did this workshop down in the Palouse, and the owner of the Napa store was there. And I mean, pretty much if you're walking into Napa, you're buying, right? Like you need something and you're buying. But I said to the owner, I said, are you tracking how many customers come in? Costco does that. That person's running a clicker. Every day, they're counting. I said, are you counting? How many, I mean, do you actually know how many people walk through the door and buy? Anybody been to a Napa or any auto parts store and immediately feel like a moron because you don't know everything about cars and they make you feel like you don't know everything about cars? It is awful. I hate going to the auto parts store, and I know a little bit. Right? My son got his driver's license. I'm sending him, like, go to the auto bar store. You got to get this one out of the way because that's not a good experience. And I was saying this to her. I said, but if you've got those kinds of people working there, you should know that. You should send some friends and family into secret shops. So this works even if you've got more of that retail-based, or if you're like me and your services and you're working business to business or one-on-one, right? So here's the first thing. What are your goals, right? Even if you're Napa Auto Parts, you should have goals. What are your sales goals? What do you need to sell to keep the lights on? Where do you want to go? Like, what's your growth? If somebody asks you, what do you want to be doing in 5 years, you should have a relatively rough answer for that, right? What are your sales goals? What's the next one, right? You've got to know, what's your customer strategy? Okay, and what I mean by this is if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, Josh, I saw you present. I have a process I run them through, but they're immediately a prospect, and I have a process for my prospects, right? When they become a customer, I have a different process for my customers. Then there's the 80-20 rule, right? Or 70-30 or whatever it is, but it's going to wash out about that. 80% of your customers will only make up 20% of your revenue, right? But 20% of your customers will make up 80% of your revenue. Do you treat them the same, or do you have different ideas on how you treat them? And that's not me saying those 80%ers who just don't spend a lot with you, that they should be treated less. They just may not be entitled to as much of your time. And there's a difference, right? You should not be giving an 80% person a 20% treatment. You will run out of you, right? And it's not me being unfair to those customers, but I have customers that I meet with weekly, And then I have customers that I don't meet with hardly at all. We check in by email and phone. And they're okay with that because I set the expectation ahead of time. Great, you want to work in this price point? Awesome, here's the rules. I define that relationship from the get-go. Now, I've worked with people who are consultants and in marketing like me, and they've got clients that are paying them $200 a month and calling them on Saturdays. No, hard no, right? You determine the terms of, I mean, look at, Napa does. When are they open and when are they closed? They don't let you just come in whenever, right? So everybody has the terms of engagement. So you have to have that. What is your customer strategy? What's your prospecting strategy? What do you do with your prospects? Now, the other thing is you should be fairly familiar with is what's your close ratio? Okay, so let's have some hard conversations. I'm in marketing, industry-wide in marketing. If I meet with 10 people, industry-wide, doesn't matter if it's my business or anything, I will meet with 10 people, one will become a customer. 10%, right? So what do I do with the 9 no's? First off, get used to hearing no, right? There's an old sales saying, if anybody's done hardcore sales, you've heard this before, every no gets you that much closer to a yes. And it's true. You can learn a lot. But I decided that I wanted to add value for those 9 people. I didn't want those 9 people walking away. That's lost opportunity for me and them. So I created a process where I do a free marketing review for anybody that wants one. I immediately leave you with value. And I build trust. And guess what happens? I have been referred business from one of those 9, never spent $1 with me, had one meeting with me, and referred people to me who spent thousands. You can almost not buy that. That was based on me saying, I want to leave you in better shape than I found you. I want to build trust. I've asked for reviews on Google from those people who didn't buy from me and gotten them. I've gotten them unsolicited. Somebody met with me and goes onto Facebook and says, I can't believe the meeting I just had. That dude was all concerned about me and not at all hardly concerned with making money. What is your process for prospects? Is it intentional? Just because they say no doesn't mean it's a lost opportunity. And it could be a not yet, and you should know the difference. Is it a no or is it a not yet? And I don't get any of that by hassling people, right? Because I have a couple rules. One, I can't care about your business more than you do. And 2, you're an adult. I'm not going to chase you up. I don't work with many kids. You want to do business with me, you know where I am. So I don't spend a lot of time hounding prospects. I do maybe 1, maybe 2 check-ins after the first meeting. I add them to my newsletter list. Oh, by the way, that's marketing. So they get my newsletter. And I follow up with them, but they know where I am, right? I'm not the used car salesman hounding them until they say, fine, or go away. That's not how I run my business. And I don't think that's how anybody else should run their business. The other thing is, the other part of your in-person sales processes or your plan is, are you tracking any of this? Right? So one of the things I'll send you, if you want, if you put your name on the list that's going around, hopefully the list has made its way all the way around, is a template that I have created for how to do this. Now, there's a lot of tools out there that you can spend a ton of money on, right? And get in over your head. HubSpot's one of them. Good tool, great tool even, but expensive. They quoted me something like $6,000 per year for their tool. So I don't like spending that kind of money, right? I don't think that's great. So I came up with this. This is just a spreadsheet. Super simple. All right. So one version is a face-to-face. The other one is if you're retail. But for me, for face-to-face, here's what I track. I track total retainer clients, total project clients, and then any in-kind clients. I want to know who's in the wheelhouse. Then I track, did I lose anybody? Did I gain anybody? Are there any new prospects? Where am I at in that? And then I track, this is key, how many meetings did I have with clients last week? How many non-client meetings did I have last week? How many prospect meetings did I have last week, right? And I go on. And then below this is, I'm going to knock something over here. I'm going to just die, and it's going to be awesome. Has anybody seen that viral video? My kids love YouTube fails. The one where the guy's doing a presentation. It looks like he's in a bar, and he goes to sit at one of those stand-up, those high tables, and just hits the floor, like misses the chair, and everybody gasps. Like, that will happen to me someday, I promise. It may be today. So here's what I do is I track my clients by type, right? And then I track, so project, retainer, in-kind, and then I track my prospects. If you're like a Napa, you may not be able to track like your, now if you have like commercial accounts where you're selling to auto shops and things like that, they should be your customers. But tracking consumers, the everyday consumer, is too difficult. So you track who your partners are, you might track who your vendors and suppliers are. So this is where it gets real. I started tracking this. I came from a sales world. I did marketing, and then the economy crashed, and then I did sales like every good marketer does, and hated it. I learned a lot, but I hated it. And when I started my own business 6 years ago, the last thing I wanted to do was track sales. Like, sales forecasting was the bane of my existence when I was it was the worst. If you've ever done forecasting, you might feel the same. So when I started my own business, I was like, nah, I'm not doing it, not tracking that. And then things got tough in my business, and I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I had to fire 2 employees. I had to scale way back. It was brutal. So August of, and like a year goes by after all that, and things had kind of picked up, but not the level that I was used to. And so in August, just August of 2018, I went, this has got to change. So I built that spreadsheet, and I started tracking it for my own business. Within 4 weeks, my prospect list and my client list nearly doubled. And I didn't do anything differently. I just held myself accountable to sales. Who am I calling? Who am I working with? How many meetings am I having? Where am I spending my time? What are the opportunities ahead of me? This is not a tool for you to use with your employees to hold them, like to hold their feet to the flame. It is not to intimidate or punish anybody. It is just an accountability tool to say, I know I have to do the work for my clients, but I also have to find new clients. And what is my process for that, right? I have to make my product, but I also have to find people to buy my product. What is the process? And by using that spreadsheet, it immediately changed my business. Just by using it. Didn't change anything. I didn't spend any money. I didn't do any more or fewer workshops. I just started tracking it. Okay, so key parts of an online sales plan. Even if you're not an online retailer, you need to be paying attention. First one, is there a clear call to action or a clear value proposition? I met with this client. They were both, one was a doctor, one was a licensed, a registered nurse. They were launching a new healthcare office, and the idea was you pay like a membership fee and you get to go see the doctor whenever. Doesn't include any like surgeries or anything. It's just like a membership to see the doctor whenever you want. I could not figure that out by reading their website. And the first thing I told them when I met with them to do their marketing review was, I have no idea what you do, and I have looked at everything. Right? Your customers should know like that what you do and where they can go to get it. And I'm not talking about being that used car salesman, but they're on your website for a reason. They should know what you want them to do, right? Where do I want them to go? I went to the Community Colleges of Spokane's foundation website today, which is all about scholarships. I couldn't really figure out how to apply for a scholarship. They're doing a new scholarship for CNC stuff. So if you want to learn how to use a router or any of that kind of stuff, they have a scholarship, $4,500 for that. I couldn't figure out how to apply for it. In fact, when I got onto their scholarships thing, it said all their scholarships are closed. Whoops. Right? And I'm not even interested in going to be a CNC router person. But what if I was? So you have to, it's got to be clear. So mine, you go to my website and it says, there's a button at the top, free marketing review. My main slide says, want a free marketing review? Guess what I'm trying to get you to do? Go get a free marketing review. It's not hard. And if you don't know, like just send your website to your mom and go, Mom, do you know what I do? Because my mom, for like the first 4 years I ran my business, she had no idea what I did. I'm pretty sure she thought I like laundered money for the mob or something. That's on me, because that's me assuming mom doesn't know other business owners. She does. My mom does. My mom knows lots of people, right? So your family, they should know what you do, by the way. Not like you're going to go sell to them, but they should know what you do, right? So anyway, so send it to your mom. If you're like, I don't know if my website makes sense, mom will know, right? Maybe dad. Maybe you're going, uh-oh, clicker died. Did it really though, or did I just push something wrong? Whatever. All right, next one. Write clear content for the customer. Does your customer, are they able to read it? So here's the thing. You might have industry terms. You might have things that you say as a part of your industry, insider terms, acronyms. Ugh. Don't use those words. What do people say when they talk about your business and they don't know anything about your business? Right? What are the words they use? Not the words you use. You have to write content for the customer. Right? The next thing is make sure your site is easy to use and mobile friendly. Right? I had a client I was working with where 45% of their traffic to their website was from a mobile device and their website was not mobile friendly. Half of their traffic couldn't view their website. Guess what they did? Bought a new website. Because that's unacceptable. And if you're using like social media as the primary tool to drive traffic to your website, you should know what your website looks like on one of these. And if you don't, do it right now. Right? One of my tips is start now. So you got to make sure your site is easy to use and it's mobile friendly. Is it easy to find the content? The other one is keep it simple. Right? My kids should be able to navigate your website. Don't make it complicated. There's no reason to. There's absolutely no reason to. Here's the other thing. If you're tracking your website traffic with Google Analytics, you can find out what the top pages are on your site. I've worked with client after client after client that was convinced some silly page was like where everyone was going, and then when I showed them, it's about you and contact. Who are you? Mission statement. And how do I get a hold of you? And if you're in e-commerce, the one of the ones at top in there is how do I buy from you? Right? Yeah. Facebook Pixel is good. So that's like a super advanced, it's like 401 version of this class. But yes, Facebook Pixel is a cookie that you can use to track traffic as well. And I recommend it. So keep it simple, keep your content clear. People should know what you're trying to do. There's also free tools out there where you can plug in your URL and get somebody to do a free video walkthrough of your site and tell you what they see. I had a client, they sell dry mix salad dressing. It took the person reviewing our site 2 minutes to figure that out. When was the last time you spent 2 minutes on a website not called Amazon or Facebook? Like, never, right? Like, I'm like, where are you? How do I call you? Okay. Like 2 minutes to figure out we sell salad dressing. Unacceptable. All right, here's the other thing. What are your competitors doing? You can learn a lot from your competitors. One, you can learn you might be killing it compared to your competitors. You might be getting a lot right. But you can also figure out, like, if you don't know what the first steps are, maybe they're killing it. Look at the people who are doing really well, right? Who's killing it in this space? Oh my gosh, I have 5 minutes. We can do it. Okay, things that are sales. Salesperson, duh, right? Okay, owner-operator. Don't ever let anybody tell you, I'm the owner, I don't have anything to do with sales. If they hand out a card that says they're the owner or the president or the CEO, they are the first person doing sales. Guess what? So is the person on the factory floor. Coca-Cola runs every employee through a training that tells them how important their role is in sales and marketing in the organization. And it starts with, don't talk bad about Coca-Cola. Don't say, I love Pepsi. I just heard this story. Somebody went to work for Coca-Cola, and they were just trained. They didn't even know they were doing it. They said, where's the Pepsi machine? Guess who got fired? Right? Go ahead. Oh, yeah, 100%. When I worked at American Eagle in high school, the only thing they would let you flex on was jeans if you couldn't tell they were like somebody, like you couldn't wear Levi's because Levi's has the thing. I'm pretty sure these are Levi's. Yeah, like the thing, right? You couldn't, unless your butt was covered, you couldn't wear jeans that identified somebody else's jeans. And all from here up had to be American Eagle. They gave you a good deal, but that's bingo, 100%, right? Okay, website, duh, we talked about that. Customer service, all right. My favorite story. All right, wait all day to tell this story. So if you got to go at 1, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I hope you stay. We're going to run a little long because we started a little late. I went to go have lunch with a friend of mine up north at a pizza place that shall remain nameless. And we went in, and it had one of those signs, we've all seen it, that says, please wait to be seated. Right? It's dead in there. It's a ghost town. We're just before the lunch rush. So we stand there and we wait, and we're talking and we're catching up. We don't even notice. But after a while, like 10 minutes go by. And the whole time, I can see into the kitchen, and there's 3 people back in the kitchen. They see me, I see them. Not one ever says, somebody will be with you, oh, they're busy doing this, oh, we'll be right out, or just go ahead and grab a seat. Why? Because they all thought, that's not my job. That's not my job. And if you have that's not my job people on your team, you better get rid of them because they are killing your business. And I am the last person to advocate firing. I hate it. It sucks. But if you have those people, and we know who they are, those toxic people, get rid of them. They're hurting you. If you have people that are on the front, like, do we call my CPA? And the gal who answers, every time she treats me like I'm spamming them. And I'm not like, I spend a bunch of money, you got to treat me well. But don't treat me like I'm just some dude cold calling you. Right? I do spend money. Like, who? Why are you calling? Because taxes. Really? Like, be nice. And I've told my CPA, dude, retire, like release her to the next phase of her life, right? If you can't handle, like I'm a millennial. We don't say firing. We dance around it, right? I'm an older millennial. Like I'm maybe Gen Xer. I don't like Gen Xer. I don't want to, there's a forgotten generation, right? We never talk about Gen Xers. Strategic partners, right? Okay, strategic partners. People who are out telling people about your business. What are they saying about your business? Are you in control of that narrative? Are they saying what you want them to say? Right? You want to make sure you know what that is like. Next one, your vendors, same thing. What are your vendors saying about you? I love startup. You will never hear me say a bad thing about startup because I work out of a different co-working space. I work out of another one of these, but you will never hear me say anything bad about them. They're a partner. I don't trash them, right? I try not to trash people in general, except for my CPA, apparently. But you don't know who that is. You don't know who he is. Uh-oh, I narrowed it. It's a he. Suppliers, people that are supplying you with stuff, you want to know what's going on with them. The thing about suppliers and vendors are they're working with other businesses, right? That's a referral pool for you, right? Subcontractors. Do you have anybody doing work on behalf of you? We just renovated my house last summer, and I was coming home. I was painting in the evening, so I was working full time, and then I was going and doing all the painting, and I was doing a bunch of work. So I'd leave, and I'd go, and I was getting there about the same time that the drywallers were getting done. Came home one day, they're smoking on my porch and flicking the butts into my garden. Guess who got fired? Now, I didn't fire them before the job was done, because I didn't want them, like, spitting or doing something, like leaving trawl marks. But I called my contractor and was like, dude, you've got a problem. I'm still picking up cigarette butts. And guess who that reflects on? It reflects on the contractor, not on I don't even know who the subs are. I don't know what the company is, right? So if you've got people out there representing your brand and they're not an employee, they're on contract or whatever, you better make sure they know what they're doing. Your contractors, right? Anybody else like that? Okay. Retailers, anybody who's selling your stuff, if you've got a product in other people's stores, you've got to do sales twice. You've got to sell to that store so they buy your product, and then your product has to sell to the customer, right? So you've got to do sales twice. Same thing if you're in real estate. You've got to convince somebody to work with you, and then you have to either help them buy a home or sell their home. You have to do sales twice. I feel bad for you. But retailers, do you know what they're doing? Where's your product sit when it's at the retailer? Is it got good placement? They call it facing. Is it always facing? Is it front, right? Retail's goofy. Wholesalers. Are people buying your product and then turning around and selling it to other people? And what are they saying about you? If you're a good brand, you're giving them a toolkit. You're giving them resources, language, and literature to use, so you're controlling the narrative. All right, any questions there? Because we're going to round this thing out. I'm 1 minute past. I promise I can do this in 4. All right, this is how it all fits. When things are working well, it's a machine. It's a well-oiled machine. Your marketing is spinning, your advertising is spinning, and your sales is spinning. And even if you're not spending a lot of money on advertising yet, it doesn't mean that these 3 things can't be working together. Because here's the way this works out. You can have the best marketing in the world, but if your frontline staff is, it's not my job people, you won't make any money. People will come in, and then they'll leave, right? Conversely, you can have the best sales in the world, but if you hate social media, I just hate social media. It doesn't matter how good at sales you are if you have no one to sell to. if you're not reaching the people who could buy from you, who could benefit from what you bring to the table. You don't have to spend money on advertising right away or ever to have at least an understanding of how it can fit. But you do need to make sure that you're the one controlling the narrative, the marketing, and that you're controlling the customer interaction. So, and if you're not doing direct sales in that fashion, it better be customer service, right? I mean, think about banking. Ugh. Our business bank, it takes forever to just deposit a check. Forever. It's a plague. I hate it. It was so good the other day. I stayed, hit the call button, and told her this was the best experience I've ever had at this bank. I want to leave this bank all the time, but it's the best business banking in town except for this part. It's like free business checking. You don't find that all the time. So marketing, advertising, and sales, how do they all fit? How do they go together? And do you know, right? And are they all spinning in the right direction? So I told you I would make sure you would know how to get a hold of me. Like any good marketer, I ran out of business cards at the last workshop I did, so we're waiting on those. There's my contact information. You can take a picture. Again, I'll email you the deck if you want it. Does anybody know where the sheet is? It's right there. So there it is. If you didn't put your name on there, please do. I will email you a copy of this deck and some other resources that you can use. And then, like any good marketer, I will funnel you into a marketing review. You want me to take a look at what you're doing to market your business? Glad to. Doesn't cost you a penny. An hour of your time. And that's what I got. Get out of here. Get crazy. Go market and sell stuff. Thank you.